Hello everyone, welcome back to Planet Coaster 2, welcome back to Utopia World, our somewhat realistic US theme park build that we've been working on. In the last episode I completed the Central Plaza as you first come into the park, and I was pretty happy with how all that turned out. And the idea was to continue into the park, start maybe doing a layout, put some rides in, start working with the first coaster or something like that. But I just couldn't get inspired to do it, and I couldn't decide what I wanted to start building. So instead, you're getting a car park in this episode, which is obviously not as exciting, but it's something that the park needs, something that I wanted to do myself, and to see if it's any easier and any more fun to build one in Planet Coaster 2 as it was in the first game, because I've never really been a fan of building car parks or parking lots, to be honest. I think they're just something that your park needs for a little bit of realism, and the thing I struggle with the most, which you'll probably be able to tell in this video, is working out the layout. So I went through several different iterations. We've got a highway running along the side of the park as well. So that all had to move, everything had to move around so there's enough room. We also need enough room for a bus to turn round, because I decided that the guest spawn point will be one of the coaches that the game provides, and that way we can have a bus stop here, which is right near the entrance to the park. So guests haven't got far to go at all, and I think that works out pretty well. And it also prevents guests from wandering around the car park, because they tend to just head straight towards the park entrance when they come out of the spawn point, which works out perfectly. Obviously we've got all the barriers now, so we could stop them going anywhere we didn't want them to go anyway. But yeah, for guest flow I think this works out absolutely fine. And although sort of doing all this type of stuff isn't really my favourite thing to build in game, it is quite fun trying to work out the logistics of everything and sort of problem solving in a way. So I put a load of sort of don't go here lines across the ground, just to make it clear that this is a place just for the bus to stop, so do not park on this area. But also we're probably going to have some no entry signs for all other vehicles near to the entrance of this, because it's going to run all the way around the edge of the car park and then connect back up to the sort of main link road that will connect the whole parking facility area to the main highway. We didn't want to go with anything too big or too crazy, because this is meant to be kind of a smaller park, or at least to start off with. So we're not looking for sort of Disney scale car parks. And I think really in games like this, you're going to scale your car parks down a little bit to what they would realistically be in real life, because a lot of the time the car parks are probably, I don't know, but they're probably as big as the park itself, if not bigger in some instances. So obviously that's not going to work out really in game. You can do it, but then you're spending an awful lot of time and using up a lot of space that could be used for the park. So yeah, I had no intention really of doing that. One thing that I found really did help with this build was using the sort of snapping feature within the advanced move tool, so everything can be the correct amount of grid spaces away from each other, so you can get stuff that's perfectly aligned rather than just eyeballing everything. I think this worked out quite a lot better. So we do have some features in the game that tend to sort of improve your quality of life while playing. I've also noticed as well that we can now select things again. I mean, we have been able to for a while, but I haven't been playing that much. But since whenever the last update was, in December I guess, we've been able to select things with shift when you're multi-selecting, and then use control to deselect things, and you can still keep everything else multi-selected, which wasn't a feature on launch, and it made building a lot more frustrating. I find things a lot easier now that we can do that with the multi-select tool. It's something that I do a lot, and it's something that I'm really glad they fixed. So it's basically the same as the first game now. Although I noticed we do have a slightly different cursor for the advanced move tool, which is interesting. It sort of has a little plus next to it, if anyone's noticed that. But yeah, anyway, what are we doing here? So building a load of road markings. Obviously we've got the text tool, so putting in stop signs on the ground at each part where the guests will walk, so there's plenty of pavement sort of pathways that the guests can navigate from getting from their vehicle to the entrance gate. Putting some trees in here, varying the size and rotation of them ever so slightly, but keeping them also snapped to the correct grid spaces so that they're all perfectly aligned. I think this is something that you probably would see in a real car park. Perfectly aligned trees that have all been planted just to make the grey concrete space look a little bit more pleasant. So I think that's somewhat believable. And then just covering up this bus road with some pathing. Not pathing, sorry, with some fencing. And then covering everything around the bus stop up as well with the same sort of fencing. It's the same fencing that we're using for the entrance area of the park. It's basically just a Viking fence turned upside down, and that works absolutely fine. And now I had to work out the rest of the layout of the car park, and at this point I decided we need a little bit more room. We're a little bit too close to the highway, especially for having a sort of feed road in and out of the car park itself. There just wasn't enough room there, so I moved the highway or deleted it, and we place it back in later on. And then just filling up some of the spaces as well on the curved sections. Obviously they had to be eyeballed a little bit because you can't really snap them. They have to be different angles and stuff, and it's just a little bit more tricky. But I wanted to make use of that space as well, because although I built this huge big car park, it doesn't actually look like there's that many spaces. But you probably noticed at the start of the video I was using the cars for a sort of guide, so if they're to scale, then these parking spaces are to scale, basically. And then a lot of playing about with the path for some of these triangular sort of sections, because obviously everything's really finicky and really awkward, but somehow I managed to make it work using the various different path tools. The only thing that I really would ask Frontier for right now is a circular stamp tool for making paths. I mean, why is it not in the game already? That would be so useful. It would just be a complete game changer really for path building, in my opinion. I have seen that there's a creator, I really can't remember the name of this creator, which is really bad, but they have uploaded loads of little guides, like hacks and stuff, of really cool tricks that you can do in Planet Coaster 2 to manipulate the game and do things that wouldn't otherwise be possible. One of them initially, before we had the barriers, was that you could sink a bin into the ground, sorry, you could use a multi-select to select a bin or a bench or anything like that we originally couldn't do in Planet Coaster 1. So we could use the bins a bit to help with path, like guest path flow and stuff like that, not walking into walls and whatnot. Okay, so I've just looked it up. The creator's called Tagid, or Tag I3D, and the video is called Circle Stamps That Won't Distort Advanced Path Editing Planet Coaster 2. Go and check it out. It's a really good tutorial about how you can basically manipulate the game into giving you a perfectly circular piece of path of different sizes and use it in different places. That's definitely something that I'm going to be having a go at some point. You can see here myself, I made a circle path very briefly, and then realised that we're in the USA and you guys stateside don't have roundabouts for some reason. That's very much a European thing. So I thought we're going to have to work out a different way and just have a sort of slip road going onto the highway here. So this is the second iteration of the highway. I believe I think I delete it a third time actually and build it again, because it's just really tricky to get things working out in this area. We have a separate entrance and exit sort of feed road, but for the exit one to work we either had to do a bridge or a tunnel. I thought a tunnel would look better, so that's what we settled with in the end. In fact, I think this is the final version because the paths are now all in place, and I was fairly satisfied with the way they looked. And I get onto a part here where I really struggle to work out the road layout, and I'm basically putting loads of exit signs in and guiding loads of traffic towards an exit. I also realised that the the feed road that I put here that goes into the tunnel was actually stairs, so that probably wouldn't work so well as a road, so I had to go in and change that and make it into a proper road. I'm not bothered about the bits under the tunnel, you're never going to go in there and see it, it's just for show, and a lot of it will be covered up. So I just wanted to make sure the bit going into the tunnel looks okay. But yeah, this is the point where I'm putting exit signs everywhere and trying to work out the road layouts, and then I realised that what I've done really isn't going to work out, so I just gave up on that idea and tried to simplify it. There's traffic that's basically going to be getting stuck. If I kept this road layout in place, then people that had gone down the road to the right hand side of the car park would be stuck there. Basically they'd have to exit the park, and they wouldn't be able to go back round, so if they're looking for another space or whatever. So yeah, this was all put in, and then I thought it's just not going to work at all. So in the end, what I went back to do was basically to just simplify it all and just have two-way roads all the way round, and the entrances coming this way, you get two entrance lanes in because there might be heavy traffic going in, the same with the exit, and then once you get to the car park you then go into the appropriate lanes for whether you're parking or whatever you're doing. And yeah, I think that worked out a heck of a lot better. Still a bit fiddly getting some of the sort of arrows in and road markings and stuff like that, but I think it really does make a difference to details like this. It's about as detailed as I want to go really with the build. I don't want to go too crazy with a car park. We do end up putting some sort of signs in as well to show what area of the car park you're in, because it's so easy to lose your vehicle in a car park like this. I also decided we need some disabled bays as well, but I didn't want to go for the hassle of building one of these disabled road markings myself, so I just nabbed one from the workshop. These are made by a creator called Magin. I'll put the workshop link in the description. Really handy to find little things like this off the workshop and use them. So the next thing that I'm working on is the signs for the parking zones. So we've got A to G or H, I believe. And because it's not a huge park, I didn't do that many different zones, if that makes sense. I mean, if A, I believe, is the first 3 sort of sections on the right, and then B's on the left. I think it makes sense the way I've done it. To the best of my ability, I tried to match up the colour of the poles as well, as close to the lampposts as possible, so it looks like it's all built with the same materials and whatnot. And yeah, so we've got C and D at the end, and then E, F, G, etc. are the bays further to the left. So you'd probably start filling up A and B first. If you're the earliest into the car park, that's where you'd be parking, closest to the entrance, and just obviously easier. And that's basically that's it really. Putting in a bus stop as well, bus stop sign, and a very quick makeshift bus stop, which I used a cool aquatic piece for. There's definitely loads of brilliant uses for this piece, like underwater tunnels and stuff like that, but I think it worked pretty well as a bus stop as well, and I was going to add a load more detail to it and make it look kind of interesting, but then I thought, you know what, it looks fine just like that. And again, do we really want to go heavily detailed in the car park or the parking lot? Probably not, so that's all we do, stick a couple of benches in there and call it complete. I now move on to the foliage and add some planting around. Got some planting here at the path where the guests will walk from the bus stop into the park. I thought all this area needs to look kind of nice and give a good first impression for guests walking into the park. So I placed down all these planters to start with. Thought that it would be the same colour, but then I thought no, we need a little bit of variation to give it a little bit more interest. And now I've been playing the game for a while, I do think we're lacking a bit in the foliage and planting department. Trees were good. We're good for trees, but I think we could do with more different variations of flowers and different flower beds and stuff like that. I tend to be using sort of the same pieces. I really didn't know what to do with these cut out sections of grass, so I just put some bushes in, or some, there's sort of like hedges, I guess, and we use them as well to just cover up this area around the walkway, and then adding some lampposts in as well. And that made me realise that I probably need some lampposts for the bus route as well. For when people are leaving in the evening or arriving really early in the morning or whatever. So I end up putting those in. I haven't done all the road markings yet for the bus lane. I think I probably should do those at some point because I've kind of started them, but we'll get to that later on. It's I basically got to a stage where I was happy with how everything looked and thought I'll call it a day and leave it at that. Just so that we can sort of move on to something else really. You can always go back and do a few finishing touches later on in the build. So we're into February now. I've got to be honest, I haven't been playing that much Blanco 2 at all this year yet. We're due a free update soon, I believe. I don't know what date that is, I just haven't been keeping track of things at all. But I'm looking forward to that. I hope it comes with some pieces. Obviously, they've said that they're going to be putting some of the themes from Planet Coaster 1 into the second game. I think that's probably a good move if those pieces are free, because a lot of people have been asking for them. Some people, don't like to build stuff too custom. They just like to use the sort of in-game building sets. So I think it's good now that we'll be getting some new pieces. However, I would be disappointed if they copied the exact same pieces over from the first game, because I think some of the wall sets and roof pieces and everything like that for Western and Pirate and whatnot are a bit outdated now in terms of sort of the graphics that we've got in this game. Obviously the new lighting engine would make them look a bit better anyway, but I think some more modern pieces will be better, or a slightly different take on it, just so we've got something a bit varied, but something you can still do those classic themes with that people really want to do. That's my thoughts on that anyway. There's obviously still a lot of pieces that we're missing in the game, just small things, but they will be coming in time. I've got no worry about that. I just think, for me personally, it's actually disappointing that we won't have a paid DLC for a long time. I mentioned this before, but I was sort of looking forward to having some new themes to work with, some completely different stuff, load of new pieces. But I do need to go through at some point and have a proper look at all the pieces in this game, because there's still a lot that I haven't worked with yet. And I do tend to get caught up using the same pieces over and over again. But yeah, that's just how it is, I guess. I like to get on and play. And the first time I picked up the game, actually, I went through all the aquatic pieces, laid them all down, and thought this is a really, really cool set. And I'd planned to sort of do that with all the themes and look at everything, but I just got too excited and ended up building like a aquatic surf coaster or something. And yeah, I couldn't control my excitement any longer to actually build something in the game. So that's what happened. Finishing off the build now then with some sort of walls around the car park. Not overly happy with these, but I think they're fine without going into too much more detail. Just using the painted brick walls and fairly low to the ground, but just enough so that they give some sort of support to the edge. They just sort of finish off the look of it really, rather than just leaving it as barren land around the edge. Other than that, really, I just put a little bit of foliage in and leave it at that, and I think we have a believable, realistic-ish parking lot, which I'm pretty pleased with. And in the next episode I will move on to something else in the park and start working on probably a coaster. We'll probably get a coaster in, and then that will sort of boost my enthusiasm to start working on a themed area or something like that. But because we're going for a realistic park here, I don't want to start with some crazy themed area, because that's just not how it will be. It might be worth building like a classic wooden coaster or something like that, and just seeing how that looks in the park, and then taking it from there with whatever we do with the theming around it. I'm also thinking like some sort of midway games, some like arcade games and stuff like that. I think might be fun and quite fitting for this park. But yeah, just throwing some ideas around. And by the time the next video comes out, we'll probably have had the next 3 updates, so that's something to look forward to. So what I will do, I will leave you with the cinematics, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.